In this video you will learn how to make this card from the beginning till the end. It is about using Lunar Paste, using dies, stamps, stencils, coloring and even how to create something that you don't have. Let me inspire you with Carla Creates Guinea Pig Release by Vaessen Creative. Hello, it's CisVolk. Time to enjoy card making with me. I will start using some Lunar Paste. Lunar Paste by Simon Hurley from Ranger is a glimmer paste that you can dilute with water. This piece of structured paper I will try to cover mostly with the Lunar Paste. I am not the best at smearing with spatulas, but if you hold the spatula flat, all will be smooth eventually. I'm always sparing of my products, but here I really should have taken more paste on my spatula to cover the entire panel. There was a dried up grain in between that made it difficult for me, but I didn't give up, and when I added a little more paste, it all went well. It doesn't matter how much you spill the first time, you can always put the rest back in the jar. Lunar Paste also works very well on black cardstock. I should do that once. It gives a very nice result. And you can also apply it diluted with a brush. That is nice as well. After adding a smooth layer, I also add some extra paste because I want some more paper with Lunar Paste to use for die cutting. This whole panel will be used for die cutting, by the way. Before closing the jar, I add some water. It dries out less quickly that way. Cleaning the tools is the least fun job, but it is doable if you do it right away and use a disposable cloth for it. Now this will have to dry for a few hours. I don't consider using a heat tool because I don't want it to bulge. Last night I made this panel with Lunar Paste. You can see the nice shine it has. I used structured paper, so you see there is some more detail in it. For the card I will be making today, I have the nature dies in mind, and as well all the stencils in the Guinea Pigs release. I keep the whole set in this zipped storage case. It still has plenty of space left to add new sleeves and tabs with or without magnetic sheets. Now an exciting part, die cutting. If you would use this grass die in the way it is made, you would cut off the border. I want a large green lawn, so I shift the paper in between the opening of the die and cut it this way, in the die cut machine. I tried not to die cut all the way over that horizontal ridge, but turned it back when I arrived at that point. You may have to bend the paper back a bit after it is cut. The grass goes onto a slimline card. I will cut a flower out of white cardstock, and for the stem and leaves I can use that extra piece with Lunar Paste. I will double up the flower so it is more sturdy. You can glue this flower straight on top of each other, but you can also glue it shifted so you get more petals. The flower is not symmetrical, so look closely if you are gluing exactly on the same spot. You also should have nice embossed lines in the paper. Try die cutting with an extra layer of paper if these lines are not visible enough. That flower will get some color in a moment. Now the background. In the Guinea Pigs release are 3 stencils, an upper and lowercase stencil and the sun and clouds stencil. I want the sun at the top of the paper, but there are no sun rays. If you just think out of the box, like I always try to do, there is an easy way to make yourself some sun rays. The stem for the flower is a perfect die to make sun rays out of. Instead of cutting these sun rays, I just made my own stencil with 1 flower stem cut out of a sturdy piece of vellum. Planning where to place your text can be hard. There are a few tips I want to give you if you are having trouble finding the right place to position your text stencils, or if you only have one beautiful background that you don't want to ruin. At first, lay down the stencils that you don't have to reposition, like I did with the sun. Next, make a template on scrap piece of paper, or even better, a piece of vellum that you can cut out and lay down on your card to see if it fits or on which place it would look nicest. Normally I make pictures of such templates to save for later or to see what works and what doesn't. Here you see another example I experimented with. To position the letters you can place pencil dots or pencil lines, but be careful not to color on top of them or you won't be able to erase them. On the left and right side of the card panel I placed a pencil line so I can see if I blend straight. To hide the letters I don't need, I used post-it notes, but you could also mask with masking tape or make a hole in a piece of paper in the size of the letter you want to color. I used distress ink in the color Rustic Wilderness for coloring the words. That color matches the Lunar Paste best. The color of the Lunar Paste is Latergator. I blend with blending brushes and I blend in a way that the color of the letter is not solid. That means that I apply more ink on one side of the letter and less on the other side. That way the letter gets more depth. I chose for the option to evenly divide the letters over the width of the card panel by starting with the outer letters. So that is the first letter first and the last letter second. The other letters come in between, starting from the outside again. Instead of blending the letter U, I use an image. It is always fun to use an image instead of a letter. You can usually read what it says anyway, even if a letter is missing. I will be making the words good luck, and also here I start blending the outer letters first. Because I want to use a lowercase letter O, I place the G and D somewhat more inwards. And to find the right place to color these O's, I put a small pencil line where they needed to go. I didn't color on top of these pencil lines on purpose, because they needed to be erased. Here I started blending the sun in the color Fossilized Amber in Distress ink. Also here more ink on one side and less on the other side. The sphere looks rounder this way. On top of that yellow color goes a light layer of Lumberjack Plate Distress ink. I already made some sun rays with my handmade stencil. This is a piece of vellum out of which I die cut that flower stem from the Carla Creates Guinea Pigs collection, the same garden die set. First I use it to blend with red ink and next I add a layer of yellow ink. The other way around works out the same and you can blend the two colors immediately after each other so you don't have to move them twice. I skipped blending over the letters and I left the openings in the letters O open. You can now erase all the pencil lines. The bee can be an interactive bee when you use the action wobbler die and cut that out of acetate plastic. In one of my earlier videos I explained different ways to make and attach the wobbler using this die. The die is from the Action Die series, from the Guinea Pigs release by Carla Creates for Vaessencreative. I choose to use this fluffy guinea pig for this card. He doesn't quite fit on it, but that doesn't matter. I can cut his bud off. I already stamped and colored the bee and the ladybug. You can see me color them in the same YouTube video and in one of my reels on Instagram and Facebook. To stamp and color the guinea pig, I use Florence Smooth White 200 grams watercolor paper. And like always, I stamp in VersaFine ink and heat emboss with clear embossing powder from Ranger. To make the paper anti-static, I also use an embossing pouch. But if you use a clean brand new piece of watercolor paper, it is not specific necessary. If the stamp lays flat on the clear block and your work surface is flat, you don't really need a stamping platform when you use VersaFine ink. Press evenly on the stamp and lift it straight up when you remove it. I use a damp, short-haired microfiber cloth to clean the stamp, and I always place it back on the acetate package. Did you notice that I taped the acetate cover to the acetate where the images are printed? This way you keep them together. I will leave in the footage of the heat embossing. You might hate working with it, or you love working with it. I think it is a matter of experience. Seeing the powder melt is always magic, and I will never get bored by doing it. On my ink palette I now add the color Salty Ocean, and I start coloring the guinea pig with only the colors you now see, and some black soot ink. So that might be a surprise. And at first the guinea pig looks a bit strange, but when you follow the process it is actually quite logic. The colors I use make a guinea pig that will match with the other colors you see on the card. Enjoy the coloring process, and I hope you learned something from it. You can skip the coloring part using the chapters to skip to the next card making part. I like cutting the images with a white outline, so the image stands out some more. Would I stick the image flat on the card, I probably would have cut without the outline. Do whichever you prefer. I cut some more grass and leaves out of what is still left of that Lunar Paste panel. To keep the dies in their place, I use this easily removable tape from Vaessencreative. It can be used multiple times and you don't need scissors to cut it. I also have cut out 2 flowers. I will show you how I colored this flower. This one I cut out of normal paper. I could add it on top of the other as a thicker layer or maybe a bit shifted. This flower is cut out of watercolor paper. It can handle more water. You start by coloring the middle circle with yellow ink. I make it a bit darker. Next you add some red ink and only a little bit at the edge. You see that I tap a little. The ink will flow. Better give the ink some time to dry in between, but I am impatient. You see the yellow and red mix too much. Next add some more red at the edge and let it dry. Let's add some more fun to the letters. I use a fine liner. It is a 0.5 mm one. And I add all dashes around the letters. Try to stay calm and keep an even distance and even dashes everywhere. Turn the paper while you are doing it. What do you think? Leave a message in the comments. To attach the wobbler that I cut out of acetate plastic, I stick acid-free tape to the back of the 4 edges of that cutout spiral. I help the die cut get its shape by pushing the center upward with the tip of a pair of scissors. And I stretch the plastic to get more dimension in the wobbler. In the middle of that spiral wobbler I stick a tiny piece of double-sided tape. You could also use a small foam block or a small glue dot. The glue dot would be the best sticky option. The double-sided tape is sticky enough and you see there is some slack in it. Just gluing the wobbler on top of a card is the quickest and easiest way. I also chose for this method because I am working directly on my card base and I don't want a hole in the back. Would I have been working on a card panel, I could have cut a hole on the place the wobbler must go. In that case the mechanism, so to say, would be less visible. Also, the grass panel I stick on the panel with double-sided tape. I could also have used foam blocks to stick it raised. The leaves I stick with 1 foam block on the end and a bit of glue on the other end. 1 grass I glue flat and the other one raised. To know where to glue the guinea pig, I draw a pencil line on top of it. I look at the back and also make markings at the back. The guinea pig I glue flat at the edge of the paper and raised in the middle. I add 1 mm foam blocks in the middle and 2 mm foam blocks at the other end, the place where the nose is, so to say. I use glue where the edge of the paper will be. I cut the overhanging edge of the guinea pig off. Cutting while looking at the back is most easy. I made an extra grass die cut and now use it to make an extra layer of grass in front of the guinea pig. When I look at the card now, I see there is something not in balance. The ladybug and guinea pig stand out, but the stem and leaves don't. I could decide to cut off that white edge around the guinea pig and ladybug, but I choose to add a white leaf underneath the ones I already have, so they would stand out more and match the stamped images better. These white leaves now look like a shadow. The two O's in the word good ask for something funny. I take a black glaze pen and draw small dots in the white gaps of the O, like if they have pupils that look down in the direction of the bee. It are just two oval-shaped dots. This glaze pen creates a raised black dot, like you have with black embossing. Then I take a white acrylic marker, like a Posca marker, and add white highlights to some elements like the leaves and the inside of the flower. When the dots of the pupils in the O's are dry, I now can add a white dot in those pupils as well. How fun is this? Time to make the matching envelope! As always, I put a piece of watercolor cardstock inside the envelope to make it sturdy and to absorb water. I make a sun in the right corner, in the same way as I did on the card. First a layer of yellow ink and then a layer of red ink, partially on top of it. If you apply a thin layer and keep it on the safe side, you can always come back and add more. Funny enough, the ink always looks darker after you remove that stencil. With a microfiber cloth and some water, you can easily wipe the stencil clean. Again, I use that handmade stencil where I cut a sunray using that flower stem die out of a piece of vellum. Using yellow and red and not equally divided everywhere, I make the sunrays. Also notice that my sunrays are never evenly apart and never have an even distance from the sun to the sunray. I move that watercolor cardstock to the other side of the envelope to work on the other corner. On the other part of the envelope I will stamp some simple flowers. These flowers are also perfect for making a background. They are also in the Guinea Pigs 1 set. Still using the same colors because we want to stay in the same color combination for the best match, I color these flowers a bit. Just using my imagination to add flower stems. You can add whatever you like. But to match the added elements with the stamped elements, I like it to add black lines. Because I did heat emboss the flowers, I now use the glaze pen. But if I normally stamp the flowers, I would now have used a normal fine liner to add these extra black lines. And also that white acrylic marker or gel pen adds to the details and a better result. Just a few dots in the center of the flowers makes them so much better. I also add a small green blended border below the flowers to give them a floor to stand on. Not too dark. It doesn't have to stand out that much. You can find all info about the products and other videos in the description below this video. Consider subscribing to my channel to not miss out on any new videos and click the bell button. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again next week in my new video. Bye bye!